Welcome, beautiful mamas. I am your host, Shay Harrison. This podcast is a place for Springfield and local surrounding area mamas to share their stories about life, motherhood, and everything in between, completely judgment-free. I am so excited to be able to share these stories with you and give women an opportunity to be heard. So if you're ready to laugh, open your mind, and be part of a supportive sharing community, let's crack on. Hello and welcome to the podcast. How are you feeling?
Nervous. How are you?
I am good. This will be good. I'm really excited to tell your, as we've just said, your story, but it's not really a story, but I'm excited to share your journey today. I'm sure that I'm going to have lots of questions as we go through. So as always, I'll get you to introduce yourself and then crack on with your story.
Okay, so my name's Amy. I'm 34 years old. I have 2 kids, a almost 17-year-old and a 3-year-old.
Oh, there's a big age gap.
It is. Would not recommend it.
No. That's fine though. It's everyone has a different.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's tell your story. I'm really excited.
All right. So like I said, I don't really know where to begin.
Yeah.
It clearly starts at birth.
Yeah, that's probably the best place.
Yeah, which is 34 years ago. So
yeah.
I guess for me, the one thing I want to start off with saying is that I knew, like, my entire life that I was adopted. So it didn't just get to a point where I was 18 or something like that and it was like, surprise, you're adopted. Some of my earliest memories of conversations with my mother, so my adoptive mother, who I will always refer to as my mother, were conversations about being adopted. Yeah. So we would look at photos when we were kids and stuff like that, and there were no photos of me as a baby.
Yeah.
So
how old were you when you were adopted?
8 months.
Oh, yeah, okay, so a little baby still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I also have a sister who's adopted from another family. So, like, with my adoptive parents, they've adopted 2 children.
You being one of them?
Yes.
And then your sister being the other one?
Yeah. So she was older, 4 years older than me. So there were baby photos of her and no baby photos of me.
Yeah, right.
She was adopted when she was only a couple of weeks old.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Her parents knew that they wanted to adopt her out when they were pregnant.
Yeah.
But with me, I wasn't adopted until I was about 8 months old. And there were weird photos of me at 6 months old in a high chair with a birthday cake. And it said happy half birthday Leah on this birthday cake.
Yeah.
That is the earliest photo of me that I had.
Yeah.
So
who took that photo?
Foster parents.
Okay, so you were in the foster system.
Yes.
Before being adopted. Yeah.
So I was in and out of foster homes for most of that 8 months to begin with. I think it was a total of 6 or 7 stays that I had.
With the same foster family?
You're not pretty sure.
Oh, okay then.
Yeah. So it always led me to have a lot of questions of why I was backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
Did my parents actually want to give me up?
Yeah.
Didn't they? Were they having problems? Was someone intervening?
Yeah.
Like, the older I got, there were a lot of those questions.
Yeah.
Why was it so backwards and forwards? And because I had known my sister and that she, like, her story was so straightforward.
Yeah.
Her parents were young. They wanted to give her up for adoption.
Yeah.
And that was that.
Yeah.
But my story wasn't clearly straightforward.
Yeah.
I had found a file of all my foster history. So in all that time that I had stayed with them, going backwards and forwards for 7, different stays. They had to document everything about me. And they wrote a lot of stuff about me having, even as a baby, like weird anxiety issues, or they often had to restrain my hands at bath time because I would just scratch myself until I was bleeding.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I wasn't a very happy, kind of normal baby, I guess. Like, I don't want to say not a normal baby. That sounds a bit weird, but
it's a really disruptive
yeah,
early childhood.
Yes.
So you're probably not going to be well-rounded.
Yeah. So there was obviously that trauma that my brain was suffering but couldn't comprehend what that trauma was.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about a baby when they are with their mother and you put them down and they cry and they're crying for their mother, but if your mother never comes back, that's going to be traumatizing.
Yeah, that makes me want to cry. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, I'm having little ones, that's, you poor thing.
Exactly. So I'd also found a file that had explained that my mother was on the methadone program.
Okay.
So I was born addicted to methadone. So even when I was born, I was very unsettled, obviously, because I had to come down off that.
Oh my goodness.
So when I found that file, I think I was about 14 years old, and that is what started making me question, was I put up for adoption because my parents were possibly junkies?
Yeah.
So there was a lot going on through all of my life. From being young, I knew something wasn't right with my family upbringing. Like, I knew I'd had time away from my parents for a substantial amount of time because there was no photos of me.
So is that your birth parents?
Yeah, sorry. I knew I'd had a substantial amount of time away from my birth parents because there were no photos of me as a baby.
At least just the 6-month one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even after that 6-month photo, there was still nothing for a
Okay.
while until I think I was about 1.
Yeah, right.
So, obviously, at 14, I started asking a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Where did I come from? Who am I?
Yeah.
It was causing a lot of identity issues for me.
Yeah.
Made me very distracted, I guess, in my whole entire life, especially at school, because my whole mind was consumed by just who am I?
Yeah.
Where do I come from? Where's my parents? Who are they? What do they look like? Have I ever passed them in the street?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Becoming interested in boys and always wondering, like, what if that's my cousin or my brother or...
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I didn't want to be one of those people that accidentally marries my brother or something like that. It did go through my head.
That's a serious concern, but when you say it at a later date, it does sound quite lighthearted.
Yeah.
Yeah. Understandably. Is it like sister wives and
Yes.
brother? Yeah.
Yeah. So when you are adopted out, they do give you a little book. I think it's just called My Family or something like that. Both me and my adoptive sister had one.
Mm-hmm.
And in that it would have how old your parents were, what ethnicity they were, how tall they were, exactly how much they weighed at the time.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I think it even had their birthdays in there. And it would tell you if you had any brothers or sisters already. And it'd have all of that kind of information, but absolutely nothing that could give away their names.
Yes. So their identities.
Yeah.
How they looked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it did have like their hair colour and everything at the time.
Oh, yeah.
So it explained all that, but just nothing that would give away their names.
Yeah.
And it had stated in there that I had an older sister who was, I think she's a year and a half older than me.
Yeah.
So that was another thing that always bothered me, because I was always kind of like, why did my parents give up me and not her?
Do you know that they didn't put her up for adoption?
So I do now.
Oh, okay then. Yeah. At the time, it didn't stay that.
No, I had no idea.
Yeah.
It just, as far as I was aware, they still had her. I really didn't know.
Yeah.
But I just presumed, I guess.
I would assume if she, at that time reading that book, if she had been adopted, it would have said adopted.
Yeah.
So sister, this age, adopted.
Yeah.
Or, I guess not. And then if it didn't say that, you would just assume, well, that's what I think I would assume.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I just assumed that they still had her.
Yeah.
And I guess there was always that jealousy.
Yeah.
I was extremely envious.
Yeah.
Of the fact that there could have been my family out there living happily with my sister and not me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I knew I had an older sister, but in terms of brothers, I didn't know if I had any younger than me. So when I did become interested in boys, I just made sure I was never interested in any boy younger than me. That was my plan.
That makes sense. Yeah. That's a really logical thought process for a 14-year-old.
Yep. Yep.
Wow.
So if they were my cousin, well, you would have to wait and see.
It happens lots.
Yeah. There's no way I wanted to accidentally get with a brother. That's just freaky.
Yeah. That's just mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I guess for a really long time, I just had those identity issues. I did start to become just really, I don't know, I guess mentally unwell.
Yeah.
And I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder at 14.
Wow, that's young.
Yeah.
That's really young to be diagnosed with that.
Yeah. I was fairly crazy for quite a few years because of that. And I put it all down to that childhood trauma.
Yeah.
Because like I said, my brain had obviously suffered that trauma, but without ever being able to comprehend what had happened.
Yeah.
Where my mum went. I mean, they say that you can, as a baby, you can smell your mum and you can smell their milk, and
you hear the voice when you're in the womb. Yeah.
And being that I was with them on and off for 8 months, I did have that bonding time.
Yeah.
So, then there were lots of questions of why I was given up.
Yeah.
My adoptive parents didn't really know.
Yeah.
The more trouble I was going through mentally from about 14 to 17, they were telling me...
This is your adoptive parents?
Yeah, my adoptive parents were telling me things, but things that they didn't exactly know for certain.
Okay.
Yeah,
were they making that clear, or were they just trying to fill in the gaps for you?
I think they were just trying to fill in the gaps because my adoptive dad had once told me, your real parents just dropped you off at the hospital because you were sick and they left you there and they never came back for you. So whether he was told that and was telling me what he thought was truth, it took him a long time before he told me that, because if he did think it was true, he knew how screwed up it sounded, and he didn't exactly want to tell me, like, hey, your parents didn't want you because you were sick.
But it doesn't, well, I mean, like, not being there, if they were in and out of your life, it seems unusual.
Yeah, I know. So that's what I mean. It doesn't, I think they were just trying to fill in the gaps for me.
Maybe offer you that peace of mind because they could see that you were hurting.
Yeah.
But it wasn't helping.
No. At that point, it created a big connection between being unwell and not being wanted.
No.
Yeah, because I'm a bad asthmatic, and all through primary school people had teased me for being an asthmatic, and then all of a sudden I was just like, well, that's why, because people don't want people that are sick. People are, bad at people that are sick, and they don't want people that are different. And I started hiding my asthma puffer everywhere I went, and I never took it in front of everyone, and I ended up having some severe asthma attacks after that ended me in hospital because I would be somewhere, like at a barbecue, say, and the smoke was really bad and I was too nervous to have my puffer in front of everyone. And by the time I left the barbecue, I'd be in such an asthma attack, my puffer wouldn't help and I'd end up in hospital.
Oh, wow.
So there was just that connection between being sick and not being wanted. And then on top of all that, with all my borderline personality symptoms, my adoptive mum was struggling with me a lot, and she would sometimes get really frustrated and yell at me, and she'd be like, you need help, get out, and I'd have to leave the house, and with her telling me it's because you're sick. So at that point, it was causing me a great deal of distress because I was basically going through these feelings of another set of parents that didn't want me because I was sick.
It's just reaffirming what this your unknown foundational belief is for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. My adoptive parents actually split up when I was 4.
Oh, wow.
As well. So my dad wasn't in our lives a lot. We saw him every second weekend, that kind of arrangement, but he was very busy, even on the weekends that he had us. So we didn't really get to spend a lot of time with him. So, yeah, mostly it was just me and my sister and my adoptive mum.
Yeah. Are you close with your sister?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. So I see other people with really close sisterly bonds. Sorry.
No, you're right. Just having a drink. Always listening.
And I get so jealous of it.
Yeah.
Because I'm not close with my sister at all. When we were little kids, she would wake up in the middle of the night early on Christmas and come climb into my bed, or some nights I would just go and climb into her bed and Mum would find us in each other's bed and we'd get in trouble and told to go back to our own beds, but still. That bond ended when we were fairly young.
Yeah, right.
And we just never got it back.
Yeah, reconnected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her adoption story and how it affected her was a lot different. She seemed a lot more content with it all, I guess. It didn't seem to... I'm sure it affected her on the inside, but on the outside she didn't show it, whereas I was just going completely off the rails. And I don't think she dealt well with that either.
Yours does sound quite traumatic. Not that hers wasn't, but like you've said, it does sound like it was a bit more straightforward.
Yeah.
Where yours was
Yeah.
on and off and on and off and quite triggering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just things like when she turned 18, she was given a letter that her parents had sent her when she was a baby, and Family Services gave it to our adoptive parents and said, you have to give this letter to her on her 18th birthday.
Yeah.
And it basically just explained to her, we were only 15 when we fell pregnant with you, so we knew you'd be better off with a better family, but we love you and we just doing the right thing for you.
Yeah.
So she even had that kind of comfort. Yeah, closure, I guess. But with me, it was a bit different. My family, my real family, had sent me gifts through Family Services throughout my life.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The sad part is I was given them, but I was never told that it was from someone else.
Yeah.
And I remember having this specific Mickey Mouse toy that I kept for so many years. It was a baby toy. It was one of those ones with the rings that you stack up.
Oh, yep.
And it had like a big Mickey Mouse head on top.
Yeah.
And I didn't throw it out until I was, I think, about 10 years old.
Yeah.
And it was after that my mother had said, my adoptive mother had told me that your real grandmother had sent that to you. And I was like, why did I throw that out? Like, I wish I'd just kept it.
Who did you think they were from? Or were they just gifts that you had received?
Yeah, they were just gifts that I'd received. I guess considering it was a baby toy, I wouldn't have known anything. I mean, even if they told me, I wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
So fast forward to me being 16. I was totally off the rails, not going to school, very promiscuous, experimenting with different things, fell pregnant, decided I was going to keep my baby because the whole idea of just having that first family member was so comforting.
Yes.
So comforting. And some people in my family had kind of mentioned that I was ruining my life by having a child so young, but to me it was just something that I could not bear to part with.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So...
And to be honest, like, not being in your situation, not being a family member, I don't even think that it would have ruined your life. I mean, like, it hasn't, but back then that's not the thought process that I would have gone down. It would have been that peace. Yeah, absolutely.
I think some people understood that.
Yeah.
But others didn't.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is fair. Everyone's going to have their own perception.
And that would be from their upbringing.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. But that wasn't their life. It was my life.
Yeah.
And it's what I decided to do.
Yeah.
My adoptive mum was amazing support.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah. So I still lived with her. Had my baby.
Yeah.
Was absolutely so in love.
Yeah.
It was amazing. By the time she hit 8 months old, it was really kind of stressful for me because seeing what an 8-month-old was, I didn't know anyone else with babies. Yeah. So seeing what an 8-month-old was and having all that time to bond with her, I was kind of like, why would anyone give up this little bundle of joy? Like, I still just did not understand it.
No.
I was 17 when she was born, so by the time she was 8 months old, it was coming close to me being 18.
Yep.
Meaning that I could start the journey of finding my parents.
Okay.
So I've turned 18 and there's like a register. You just put your name on it, and if your real parents have put their name on a register, basically just filters through all these names until eventually like they get a match. And then...
So do parents have the option of not putting their names on it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So... no one has to put their names on it. So
okay.
A parent could put their name on it and then they'll never find their child because the child doesn't put their name on it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, I've never been adopted, but there are adoptions where parents are involved through the whole childhood as well. Is that correct?
As far as I'm aware, yeah.
Okay, then, yeah. So you've put your name on the register.
Yep. Put my name on the register. First you find an adoption, like, agency.
Yep.
I went through a place called Link Up because they're an Aboriginal agency.
Okay.
And the reason my adoptive parents were able to adopt 2 children is because my adoptive father was Aboriginal.
Okay.
And in the 80s, they had too many Aboriginal babies that needed homes. Oh. So they came up with a rule, like if you were married, you could only adopt if you were married, and you could only adopt 1 child.
Yeah, right.
But if either of the parents were Aboriginal, you could adopt 2 children.
So either birth parent was Aboriginal, then 2 children. Are your adoptive family Aboriginal?
If one adoptive parent was Aboriginal,
okay, then
that family could adopt
I see.
2 children.
Yes.
If they were of Aboriginal descent. So they were trying to put the Aboriginal babies back with Aboriginal families.
So your biological father's Aboriginal, and
yep.
then which of your adoptive parents is...
My dad as well.
Oh, dad and dad. Yeah, okay then.
Yeah. So I went with an Aboriginal adoption agency.
Was this all in Queensland?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they had told me sometimes it takes years for you to find your parents, which was stressful.
Yeah.
it took a while for my sister to find hers.
Yeah.
So I was kind of prepared for that already.
Yeah.
But within a matter of weeks, they had found a lot of information on my parents.
Yeah.
So first they find like a name matches up.
Yep.
Then they get a birth certificate. The adoption agency lady came over to my house, and she came in and she sat me down and she said, your father's name is not on your adoption papers. Mm-hmm. And for a child to be adopted out, the act at that time states that both parents need to sign the form. So usually in this instance, you're never going to find your father, because it would be most likely that your mother didn't know who your father was.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is that how they would have, I guess, waived that rule? If you don't know who the father is, then only one parent needs to sign. Yeah. Okay.
So that was extremely distressing for me.
Okay.
After she left, I bawled my eyes out, rang my best friend, went over to her house, had one of those just crying moments, because I was like, I'm never going to know who my father is, and very, very, very distressing. Mm-hmm. But that turned out it wasn't the case.
Okay.
When they did actually locate my mother and speak to her directly, she was still in a relationship with my dad.
Okay.
And they still are to this day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they met when my mother was...
I'm very surprised by that, sorry.
So am I.
Yeah.
So am I. They met when my mother was 14 and my father was 21.
Yep.
And they're still together now.
It's an age gap.
Yeah.
Of illegal proportions.
Yeah, it is. She lied to my dad at the time, and he thought she was much older.
Yeah, right.
And it wasn't until they'd been together for a while, and then he finally met her parents, and it kind of all came out that she was actually underage, and they've had a very crazy relationship, I guess.
Yeah.
Interesting relationship.
Yeah.
So they told me your dad is still with your mother. Yeah. So that was exciting. She told me that they lived in New South Wales. So again, that made me really upset, because I was like, well, that's forever away.
And you were only 18 at this point still? Yeah.
I was 18.
Yeah.
Turns out they didn't live in New South Wales at all.
Yeah.
They literally live in Logan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. At the time, I lived on the north side. Okay. So they lived like an hour drive away from me.
Wow.
Yeah. So the adoption agency, they plan like a reunion.
Okay.
And even if your family lives on the other side of Australia, they will basically help with plane tickets and everything like that to go over there. Yeah. And they'll have your adoptive agency caseworker will arrange that they can go over there with you. So it's like a reunion, and they're there to help with any emotions or anything like that.
And you would have the option of not you personally, but like not having the reunion. You found who they are, and then you can make a decision from there.
I guess so.
But you just wanted to meet them.
Yeah, well, it never got that far, because she had let them slip. She had let my last name slip to my real family.
Oh, your biological parents. Yeah.
And they were so eager to meet me that my sister rung up everyone in the phone book with my last name.
So this is your birth sister?
Yeah.
Yeah. The one who's older than you?
Yeah.
Wow.
She was so just eager to have me back that she rung up everyone in the phone book with my last name until they found me.
Wow.
Yeah. So I remember the day perfectly. I was out with my boyfriend at the time, going to visit one of his friends, and we were in the car and my phone started ringing, and it was my adoptive mother, and she was very angry.
Okay.
And she was just like, someone named Sharona, who claims to be your sister, just rung here, and I told her you're not home. She's going to ring back in half an hour, so you better be home if you want to talk to her. And then she hung
Did your
up.
mum not know that you'd reached out?
She knew that I'd reached out.
Yep.
However, she always struggled, I think, with the fact that she had to adopt.
Okay.
Yeah.
She could not have biological
She could
children?
not have kids, no.
Yeah, okay.
She tried for very many years, and she ended up with endometriosis really bad.
Yeah, okay.
And ended up having a full hysterectomy.
Wow, okay.
So
She probably feels like her daughter is going to be taken away from her.
yeah,
Yeah.
she never wanted to meet any of our biological family. It was just something she never wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
So when my adoptive sister met her biological parents, our adoptive mum didn't want anything to do with it. She was like, I will support you, whatever emotions you have when you come back from your meeting.
Mm-hmm.
But that's really as far as it will go.
Yeah.
So she was not happy that they had rung our home phone and that she had answered.
Yeah.
I, on the other hand, was absolutely just over the moon.
Absolutely.
I was so excited.
Yeah.
So I was like, look, we've got to turn this car around. I've got to go home. I don't care what we're doing. Tell your friend I'm sorry, we're not going over there. Turn the car around immediately. We were only like 10 minutes from home. Went back there and I was just sitting beside the phone.
Can imagine the anxiety and the elation that you must have been processing.
Yeah, I was so excited. But it was also very awkward because my adoptive mother was still in the same room watching TV, just very...
I can imagine like focusing on the TV, but you're well
Yeah.
aware she's listening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a bit of a cranky look on her face. She
Oh,
was
how
like-
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Mm.
The phone rung. I answered it. It was my older sister. I don't even remember what we talked about at that moment. It was all just like weird.
Yeah.
It was all just very weird. It was a quick conversation. She's a bit of a messed up person in her head, so it wasn't a normal like, hi, how are you? What have you been doing? Oh my God, it's been so long.
Yeah.
It was just really weird.
Yeah, okay.
I don't even know how to explain it. She ended up being a really bad drug user as well, so she's not exactly all there in her head.
Yeah, okay.
So it was weird speaking to her. And she was like, oh, I've got someone here that wants to talk to you. It's your mother. So that was exciting.
Yeah.
And I got to speak to my real mum on the phone, which was really nice.
Yeah.
I don't even remember what we talked about. I had asked if my dad was there,
Yeah.
and she said he was at work, and that he was a tattooist, and he was an award-winning tattooist, and I was like thinking, this is just so cool.
Yeah.
And then I told them that I had to go. I didn't want to be on the phone for very long because it was all like extremely overwhelming for me.
Yeah.
I liked the very quick, hello, how are you?
Yeah.
Like, I'm alive, it's good to hear you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was very overwhelming, and I remember my mum saying, look, we'll just call you back later when your dad's home. So the rest of that afternoon was just like probably the most overwhelming few hours of my life. Phone rang later that night. It was my mother, my real mother, and she was like, look, your dad's home now. He wants to talk to you. And that was the most normal conversation that I had gotten to have, was with him. I was bawling my eyes out, and he was being really comforting, which was really sweet because I was like, oh my God, my dad's finally like comforting me. I've never had this before. It's weird, but it's relaxing at the same time.
Yeah.
And being that I could tell the conversation with him was the most normal compared to speaking with my sister and my mum, it was him that I had asked, why? Like,
this was that night?
Yeah, on the phone. Yeah. I was just like, why did you adopt me out? I need to know.
Yeah.
He was fairly brief about it, which I guess is understanding now. They probably didn't want to tell me on the phone. But he was just like, it's not something we really wanted to do. They took you from us. We've wanted you back all this time. We've never stopped looking for you. We're here for you. It'll all be okay now. And again, it was a fairly quick conversation because it was just too overwhelming for me. And then over the next couple of days there, all I could think about, I was like ringing every tattoo shop around me because I wanted to know where he worked. I was like, maybe I should just go there and get a tattoo. Like, just thinking all this stuff.
So you still haven't seen them at this point?
At that point, no.
Yeah.
But I did about, I think, 4 days later.
Yeah, okay.
This is the weirdest coincidence too. So the actual date that I was legally adopted was August the 15th. And the day that I went and saw them again was August the 15th.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You need to ring up that radio show that does like coincidental Tuesdays or something.
Never heard of
it. I think you can win money. You should do that. Yeah, win some money or something.
Pretty far out.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had rung them on the phone again, and I did feel bad about it because my adoptive mum always celebrated the 15th of August with me. She always referred to it as my special day.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah.
She was a good mum.
Yeah. And it was a day that she would let me eat whatever I wanted. So if I wanted ice cream for breakfast, I got ice cream for breakfast. And if I wanted McDonald's for lunch, she would just come to the school with McDonald's.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah. So she was obviously always very sad that she didn't get to have her own children and that the birthday didn't come from her. And she renamed us as well. Also, okay. I'll throw that in there. So when I was born, my name was Leah.
Yes.
But my name is now Amy.
Yeah. Did she not like Leah, or did she just feel like she wanted to start fresh?
Yeah. She wanted that whole experience of
understandably
having a child and giving it a name.
Yeah.
Although I was always a bit sour about how my name was chosen because my older adoptive sister, her name is longer. And she didn't know how to spell it for quite a long time.
Yeah, okay.
And they didn't want me to have the same issue.
Aww.
And Amy's only got 3 letters.
Yeah, they thought they were doing you a favour.
Yeah.
Aww.
So that's how I got Amy.
And you wanted a longer name?
Sweet. It's not that I wanted
You are short and sweet though. That's perfect.
It's not that I wanted a longer name. It's just that when I had my identity issues through my teenage years, I struggled to understand why you would take someone's name.
Okay.
And especially if it's only to give them a short name that they can spell.
I see.
I kind of thought to myself, if there was something more special about the name Amy that you really wanted to use it, I'd be more okay with it.
Like a grandmother or...
Yeah. But just hearing that my sister couldn't spell her name was like, well, that's kind of a her problem.
Yeah.
Not a me problem.
Yeah.
So I did go through a stage actually where I was like, nope, I want to change my name back to Leah.
Yeah, okay.
And then...
Was this when you were in your teens or earlier teens?
Yeah. And that carried through for quite a long time. So especially when I met my real parents because they were calling me Leah.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So...
And you liked that then?
I do.
You like that they were calling... There they are.
I loved it.
Yeah, okay.
It was very comforting.
Yeah, okay.
So on the 15th of August, many, many years later, when I was 18, so I can't tell you what year that is.
No, that's fine.
I had gone out with my adoptive mother to celebrate my special day.
Yeah.
I'd come home, there was a message on the answering machine from them saying like, hey, just want to just call you. And I called them back, and my mother was just like, when are we going to meet you? The adoption agency is trying to arrange a meet-up. That could take so long. And I just said, what about now?
Yeah, okay.
And they were like, yeah, you can come over now. And I can't remember what time it was, but it was nighttime. It was already like 7 or 8 o'clock or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yeah, I'll just come over now.
Yeah.
It's what I want to do. I'm ready. Right in this moment, I'm ready.
Yeah.
So, called my boyfriend at the time, and I was just like, look, I want to go and meet them. I'm scared. Can you come with me?
Yeah.
I don't want to go there by myself.
Yeah.
I need that support. And he's like, yeah, I'll come with you. Left my daughter at home with my adoptive mum.
Yeah.
I felt really kind of guilty about it, but at the same time, it's something I really needed to do.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready to take my daughter over there, obviously, because they were strangers to me, basically. Yeah, yeah. So they gave me their address. I hung up the phone immediately, pretty much didn't even get changed, just ran down to my car, we left. The whole drive there, I was so nervous.
Yeah.
And we pulled up to their house. They just had like this big, massive brick stone fence with this big gate. And I was just so scared, like I couldn't even see into their yard at that point. So it was kind of like, what's behind the gate? What's going to happen when I open this big gate? There's a big wooden gate with a stone fence. You couldn't see through it literally at all.
Yeah.
So I was quite nervous. Tried to open the gate really quietly, but it was a very squeaky gate. Yeah. They had it like that on purpose so they could hear from inside the house if anyone was actually entering the yard.
Yeah.
And I was like,
intruder alert, intruder alert.
Yeah, and I was so scared. And they had it was only a very short front yard till their door, and I had a pathway leading up to their door. I was walking up there and I was so nervous and I was shaking. And just as I got to the door, this lady has just flung the door open so fast, and she just looked like this little hippie lady. She had this nice pink kind of satin shirt on with this long hippie looking skirt, and she just had like a gazillion gold chain necklaces, and she had like kind of frizzy dark hair that sits kind of the same that my hair sits, and she was really short, and she just flung the door open and she's thrown her arms open like this, and she's just said, "You are beautiful."
Oh.
And I just started to cry.
It makes me want to cry.
Hugged me.
Oh, you are beautiful.
It was a beautiful moment.
Oh.
I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
She just hugged me. She threw her arms open and hugged me, and I just hugged her back, and I cried, and shit, she probably cried too. I don't remember, but I'm sure she did.
Yeah.
And we just stood there for a little while, hugging.
Yeah.
And then she was like, "Come inside, meet your sister." And my sister was there, and she introduced me to one of my youngest brothers. So I ended up having 2 brothers, both younger than me, obviously. The brother after me wasn't home at the time, but my youngest brother was. And if I remember correctly, he was only 12 or 13 at the time. So, excuse me, he was still pretty young. And we just went inside, and sat around their dining room table and we just talked about, I guess, like what my adoptive family was like, and what my real family was like. My mother was telling me about my grandma, like her real mum, but she had passed away. My sister was just talking shit because she's not quite all there. My youngest brother was the one asking the most questions.
Kids, no filter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess he understood the least amount of it.
Yeah, of course.
Because I wasn't ever there that he knew of.
Yeah.
But it was so nice to hear him say things like, I was always told about you. I always knew I had a sister.
Yeah,
From the moment I was born, I knew that I had 2 sisters.
Yeah.
It's like they always included me in the family.
Yeah.
And my mother covered head to toe in tattoos. It was just literally everywhere.
Yeah.
And she was showing me, like, on her arm, she had all her kids' names in order and it had me in there. And then I think she had them somewhere else on her body and my name was in there as well.
Yeah.
I was still a part of their family.
Yeah.
And always had been.
Yeah.
Which was so incredibly comforting.
Yeah.
Because for so many years I was just like, these people hated me.
Of course.
And they just didn't want me because I'm me, and they just didn't want me.
Because you're sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My dad wasn't home.
Yeah.
My mum had told me that he had started his own tattoo shop, because I was like, I was ringing all the tattoo shops trying to find him and I couldn't find him anywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
And he had opened his own tattoo shop, which he didn't ever pay for any advertising for it. That's why I couldn't find it anywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
And he, I think, was too nervous to come home.
Yeah, okay.
So she was like, oh, he should be finished. And we waited a while and he never came home. And she was like, oh, we'll ring him. Yeah. We tried ringing him a few times, no answer.
Yeah.
Then eventually we did get an answer. And he just wanted to speak to me. And he did seem nervous when I spoke to him. And he was just like, look, like, my tattoo shop is literally just around the corner from home. You would have driven past it when you drove here. Can you just come down here and I'll show you my shop?
Mm-hmm.
And I think he wanted me to just go there by myself, but I was way too nervous for that.
Mm-hmm.
So my mum came with me. I left my boyfriend behind.
Good. See ya.
Yeah, I left him behind with my sister and my brother. And it was just me and my mum that went there. And even when I got there, he seemed like just really nervous. Everyone else was just really... No one else seemed nervous. They just seemed really just chilled out, kind of. Mm-hmm. His emotions, I felt, were the ones that reflected my emotions the most. Mm-hmm. And I remember him hugging me, and we sat down on his waiting room couch, and he just had his arm around me, and he was just so happy, and he didn't want to stop hugging me. My mum took a photo of us next to each other on the couch, and we're both just happy. And yeah, that was the night that I met them. I'll never forget it. It was really beautiful.
Did you feel leaving? Like, how did you feel? Obviously
sad.
Happy, but sad, okay.
Yeah.
Because you didn't want to leave?
Mm-mm.
Did you feel any, like, closure or, like...
At that moment, no, because I still...
Or processing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I still didn't really exactly know why. I didn't exactly know what the story was yet.
Yep.
So I had met them all. That was fantastic. Leaving them was sad. Just being that, like, my sister had a bedroom there and my brothers had a bedroom there. They shared a room. It was just sad. Like, I wanted my bedroom to be there at that point in time. Yeah. There was definitely that inner child inside me that was kind of like, okay, I'm home, but why do I still not get to stay home?
Yeah, okay.
Like, why am I leaving them and then they're all just still hanging out and watching TV and just doing family things, and I'm just leaving. So that was really hard to deal with, going home. Obviously, I was happy at the same time, but just, a lot of emotion. So after that, eventually I got to really speak to them and ask what had happened.
Yep.
Why did my dad say they took me off them? So the story that they told me started with the fact that both of my parents were heroin users. Mum had fallen pregnant with me, and the doctor had said, you really need to be on methadone, it's safer, it's legal, we can wean you off it. But at the moment, if you are continuing to use heroin, it's bad, it's illegal, you're going to do more damage. And
to you, the fetus?
Yeah. So they were like, we'll put you on the methadone program, it's legal, we can wean you off it, because you can't just, they had also said to her, you can't just stop taking heroin if that's what you plan to do, so it's going to do more harm to the baby as well.
Yeah.
So we'll put you on the methadone program, we'll wean you off it, it's legal, everything will be okay. Couple of months or whatever, you'll no longer be a drug user. Your baby will be born, everything will be fine. She agreed that that's what she wanted to do, because she felt like everything that they were saying made sense. My dad decided that's not what he wanted to do. Not because he wanted to keep using, but because he chose just to stop using, which he did. I think, if I remember correctly, he went on the methadone program, he took a couple of doses, just trying to weaning himself off it kind of quicker, because it's not something that he wanted to end up getting addicted to that. So by the time I was born, my mum was still on the program. She had me, I was born addicted to methadone, they had to wean me off it. I was with them for a few months, and she said one day when my dad was at work, she had me in one of those old school net bouncers that don't have the buckle, you can't clip your baby in or whatever. And I was on the floor in the kitchen, and she was doing the dishes, and my sister was running around me with one of those things that you push around and it's got the balls in it and they pop when you push it. And my mum said all of a sudden I started crying. She turned around and I was on the floor, and she thought either my sister has knocked into me and I've fallen out, or perhaps my sister had tried to pick me up and drop me.
Really common.
Yeah. So my sister was apparently quite obsessed with me when I was a baby, which is fair. Like, I was her little sister.
You were
she
cute.
loved me.
You were cute, yeah.
My mum did not really know what happened. My sister wasn't old enough to tell her what happened. She probably would have thought she was just in trouble anyway.
Yeah.
She would have been, 2.5 or around 3. My mum said she checked me over. Everything seemed fine. So she went on with her day, thought everything was normal. My dad came home from work that day. My mum had kind of said to him, this is what happened today. I've checked her over. She seems all right. Dad was like, well, yeah, she still seems normal. Everything seems fine. She didn't cut herself. She's got no bruises. She's got nothing. So don't worry about it. My mum is someone who stresses a lot. So I can imagine she would have been stressing out when she told him. And he would have been just reassuring, like, you can't see any marks on her. She's not bleeding. She's not bruised. She's not broken.
She didn't scourge and pass out.
She's gone back to happy. She's normal now, as she is every other night. And then apparently when I woke up in the middle of the night for my feed, my mum had noticed like spots in my eye. And she woke up my dad freaking out and was like, something's wrong with her. She's got all these spots in her eye. It looks like blood. Something's wrong. And my dad was like, if you're really that worried, like, she seems okay now. It's not bothering her. She's not any different to normal, but maybe just take her to the doctors tomorrow. So the next day, the spots are still there. Dad went off to work. Mum got me and my sister ready, took us to the doctor. She was told by the doctor everything's fine. You can take your baby home, just keep an eye on her. I don't think anything's really wrong. So my mum listened, she took us home, went on with her day, and then she said a couple of hours later there was a knock on the door, and it was family services, and they said, we're here to take your little baby. And she apparently freaked out and was like, no, you're not. And they were like, yeah, we are, and there's nothing you can do about it. She said they took me and left, and she was like screaming at them like, where are you going? Where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to do? And they said, we're going to the hospital, but you won't be able to see her anyway, so there's no point. My mum didn't drive, so she said as soon as they left, she just packed up my sister's nappy bag and went straight to the bus stop.
Yeah.
And of course it was difficult back then, no mobile phones, so she couldn't call my dad and be like, hey, they're taking our baby, can you come home?
Yeah.
So Dad's at work, just thinking his day is normal. Mum said it took her a while to get to the hospital because she had to wait a while for a bus, and then by the time the bus got there was so many stops. And she said she got there, she asked to see me, they refused. She stayed there all day, they would not let her see me. She was angry. She said eventually a doctor came out and said, we believe that you've shaken this baby and you're not going to get her back. So she left. She said she left just totally distraught, crying the whole way home, and she said the thing that she was just so scared about was how the hell she was supposed to tell her boyfriend when he got home, like, hey, I lost one of our babies today, and they're telling me there's nothing we can do to get her back. So Dad came home from work, and that's pretty much what she told him. Lost one of our babies today, and they're saying we can't get her back, and they think we've shaken her, and Dad was just apparently distraught, as you would be.
Yeah.
Of course, both of them have said, like, Dad said he didn't shake me, Mum said she didn't shake me. Dad believes that my mum would never have shook me.
Yeah.
So I guess that part of the story is a mystery.
Yeah.
Yeah, they, from that moment on, tried really hard to fight to get me back. Dad decided he would definitely not be on the methadone program, and that he was just going to be a straight person. But they both smoked weed, and he was just like, no, I'm literally not doing anything. I think he really believed that it was a bit of a wake-up call to him, like, wow, like, we were just having, one minute we were just having fun experimenting with things, and now the next minute we've turned into those parents that are losing our children.
Mm-hmm.
So he was just like, no, fuck this, I'm just going to be the straightest person ever. And he just stopped doing everything, and even to this day now he's so straight he will take a quarter of a Panadol at a time.
Wow.
Yeah. My mum, on the other hand, I'd say it probably made her a bit, I would say the whole experience maybe led her to even use drugs a bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be able to see why.
Sorry.
No, you're right.
So
I couldn't imagine having a child taken away from me.
it would be so hard.
Oh my goodness.
My children are everything to me.
Yeah.
If I lost them for any reason, it would just be tragic.
Yeah. You don't even want to go down that route in your imagination, do you?
So they were... that's when I was put into a foster home.
Mm-hmm.
They kept fighting to get me back.
Yeah.
My mum said my sister was always just dressed really perfectly and always well fed, and they just tried to really prove with her that they were
doing a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they weren't necessarily bad parents. Yes, for a little while there they did like to have fun, but they were still good parents trying to do everything right.
Was your sister a methadone baby?
No.
And your brothers weren't?
Yes, they were. So I think losing me probably did cause my mother to use more.
Yeah, you
and it just got worse and worse and worse. So by the time my youngest brother was born, he was born addicted to more amount of drugs than me and my other two brothers put together.
Wow.
Yeah.
God, that's tough.
Yep. So they had family services coming over all the time trying to pressure my mum into signing adoption papers. And my mum was just like, I don't know why you're trying to do this. There's no part of us that wants her to be adopted. We're just trying to show you that we're doing better so that we can get her back. And I was obviously going back into their care, and then they were coming along for whatever reason and saying we're taking her back to foster care, and because it was going through court. And in the end, the lady had said to the judge, like, look, this lady is using methadone, it's not good. Like, she's clearly still a junkie, and everyone can see it because she goes to the clinic every day, so it's an obvious thing. She's not even hiding it from anyone. And my mum's defense was, well, the government told me to be on this program in the beginning because it's legal and it's safer and it's supposed to be weaning me off it. And in the end it was ruled by the judge, we're just going to take your baby and we're just going to adopt her, whether you really want it to be that way or not. And so they were supposed to sign forms at the courthouse, which my mum signed, but my dad never did. And the judge was just like, doesn't really matter at this point because they'd just taken her anyway.
Do you know why they didn't take your sister?
No idea.
Obviously she wasn't expectedly to have been shaken or anything like that, but...
I don't know. In the documentation that I found when I was younger, there was a letter written by the court, and it was like, blah, 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 we're taking this baby because we suspect that she is in grave danger. And I always used to think, if you can go as far as using the word, the sentence, in grave danger.
Yeah.
How do you leave another child in that home?
Yeah.
I never understood that. So my dad always believed that it was just a part of them taking Aboriginal babies again, and that my sister was too old for them to want to take. So in 1988, Dad said Family Services up in Queensland here was still called DOCS, but it was soon after that, in 1989, not long after I'd been taken, that there was a massive investigation into them and that they had been found taking Aboriginal babies again. And then then DOCS was changed from, like, DOCS got shut down because of that, and then Family Services opened. Basically the same thing, obviously.
Yeah.
And then I guess that's why when they had that apology a few years back for the stolen generation, it did go all the way through to 1989.
That's so strange that they, if that's true, they've taken you from an Aboriginal family and put you with another
I know.
Aboriginal family, though.
That doesn't make sense.
No.
I don't know if it was some kind of ruling, like, okay, now we've got too many Aboriginal babies.
Yeah,
like
we've taken too many.
Yeah, and we have to put them back into Aboriginal families so we look like we're doing the right thing. I don't know.
Maybe it was like one black mark against your name. We're taking you because you're Aboriginal. I don't know, speculation, obviously. I don't know much about it. But then this family, which is also Aboriginal, doesn't have a black mark.
Yeah.
So, God.
I don't know. So, yeah, that's the story I got told of why.
Yeah.
And it never brought me the closure that I really wanted, to be honest, because now I'm just always like, well, why? Why the fuck did I have spots in my eyes? Did you shake me?
Yeah, are you lying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you just one of those frustrated parents that day and
you don't remember doing it?
Yeah, or, did you just get back home from the clinic and you had your methadone and you're a bit high?
Oh, okay.
Did you go late to the clinic and you hadn't had your methadone yet and you were angry?
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you leave me to, with some other person and for a couple of hours that day?
Yeah.
While you were doing something?
Yeah.
And did they shake me? What happened? I still don't know. And that part is just fucked up.
Yeah.
But even then, as the years went on, when I first met my parents, my biological parents, yeah, they called me Leah.
Mm-hmm.
I called them by their names for only a couple of weeks and it felt so wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked if I could call them Mum and Dad, and they were like, yeah, of course you can.
Mm-hmm.
So I call them Mum and Dad because it just, even after 18 years, it just felt wrong to call them by their names. Something inside my heart was like, that's not who they are. They are Mum and Dad.
Yeah.
But getting to know them over the years has been difficult.
Okay.
Because my dad, like I said, he did become very straight, and he's a down-to-earth person, and he's amazing, and he gives some of the best fatherly advice that I ever could have imagined I could get. But my mum definitely did use drugs more and more over the years.
Yeah.
And she's not a well lady, okay, I guess, in terms of the fact that she has used too many drugs.
Yeah, okay.
She's done stupid stuff. My sister ended up using drugs as well by the time she was 12.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Then the brother after me was born. He ended up seeing the effects of drugs, so didn't necessarily want to use them, but realised it was a good way to make money. So he sold them. Eventually became a drug user, and has been in and out of jail, so I don't know him very well. Yeah. The most I've ever got to bond with him is when he has been in prison and he's called me up from prison to talk to me.
Yeah.
It's the only time we've gotten to know each other.
Only straight.
Yeah. In the years that I've known them, my sister's probably been in prison about 5 or 6 times.
Wow.
Yeah. And my little brother got so fed up of living in a drug house that one day he climbed out his bedroom window and never returned.
So you don't know where he is or anything?
Nope.
Wow.
So for very many years felt like it was unfair that I didn't get to be there.
Yeah.
And after meeting them after a few years, I realised it was I have ended up having the chance to have the best life.
Yeah. I was just thinking you're like a little miracle.
Yeah.
Coming out of all of that.
Yeah. It's so sad. My little brother, he has been able to draw like realistic pictures since he was like 5 years old. So being that my dad is an amazing artist as well and an award-winning tattooist, as soon as my brother was 16, my dad was like, okay, let's get you tattooing. We'll get you into an apprenticeship. Like, you'll be able to make so much money, you'll be able to go far, you'll be able to have a great life. And that's what he did. And he was an amazing tattooist from the get-go because he was just such a good artist. And his life had a really good path that it could be on. But because of my mum's drug use, he just couldn't handle being in that environment.
Yeah.
And knowing that he was born addicted to so many drugs, I think he was rather traumatized in his own ways. And he had told me stories of sitting at the table for breakfast before going to school, and mum had taken so much methadone and she would just fall asleep face first in her cereal, and he had to go and move her face out of the milk before she drowned.
God.
And that's not really something you should be doing in the morning before you go to primary school.
No.
So even though he had this amazing path that he could be on for his life and probably earn quite a bit of money, he just hopped out of his window and ran away and never came back.
Have you tried to find him, like the Facebook?
Me personally, not really, because when he got older, one time he said some really nasty things to me. Just about being adopted and stuff like that, which obviously is a big trigger for me. Like, you're my brother, don't make fun of me for being adopted. It's not something that I could have even helped to begin with.
It wasn't your decision, or absolutely.
Sometimes they could be nasty people. Never my real dad, but my real sister and my real brothers and my real mother, definitely. And I think it's all because they are so drug affected. But one year on my birthday, I didn't want to spend my birthday with them. I wanted to go out clubbing with my friends. And halfway through the night, I realised I had a bunch of missed calls and a bunch of voice messages. I went into the bathroom and my mother was just like, you are a fat piece of shit, and I'm glad that I adopted you, and your name's not Leah, it's Amy.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I spent the rest of my birthday just in the bathroom crying until I was able to go home. So they would get into these moments where they would just be nasty. Mostly because I was going through phases where I would drive over to their house every weekend and hang out with them, and all of a sudden it would just get too much for me. It'd be really overwhelming because I would have all those feelings of, why didn't I get to be here forever? Would you all be different if I was here forever?
Yeah.
Or would Dad be worse if I was here forever because he wouldn't have decided to stop using drugs?
Yeah.
And they were all a very musical family, and my dad would play the guitar and my mum would be there on the drums and my other brother would be on his guitar, and like a whole Brady Bunch thing I'm imagining here.
Drug-fueled Brady Bunch.
Yeah. And they'd all be like there in the lounge room just totally rocking out, and I'd be like, well, I don't know any instruments. And when I was younger, I did want to play the drums and my adoptive mother didn't let me. And so then I'd be angry at her as well. And
yeah, okay.
so I'd see them every weekend, and then all of a sudden it'd get too much and the next weekend I just wouldn't go there. And then months would pass and I wouldn't have seen them. And then it'd just make my mum angry and my sister angry, and they'd all get angry at me, and there was no understanding. They just expected that one day I would come back into their lives and I would be there.
Yeah, okay.
And as much as I wanted that in a certain way, it was too overwhelming.
Yeah.
Because I had all these emotions, but they never tried to understand them, I guess.
They were only seeing it from their perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that made it really hard for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also realised things were so different with them as a family as what I was used to as a family.
Yeah,
so
right.
Our Christmases when I was a kid were just awesome and amazing, and we always had a Christmas tree, and then they didn't really celebrate Christmas. So that was, all of those kind of things as well were just weird to me. It was like, okay, I still don't 100% know where I fit in, because like I do fit in with you guys in a certain way, but in another way I don't anymore. So I never really wanted to spend Christmas with them, because Christmas was not as exciting to me with them. Yeah. Because it's not what I was used to. Yeah. Christmas to me is a big deal. Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah. So all of that was weird. So that's why even to this day my whole adoption personally affects me. Yes. Mentally, because I still don't know where I fit in. Yeah. I still don't know who I am. Yeah. Yeah. But that's my story, I guess, in the most shortest amount of time that I can tell it, which I feel like it's been a very long time.
No, that's been amazing. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your, like I said, and like you said, it's not just a story, it's your life, it's your journey. So I really appreciate you coming on and being so open. I know that I got so much out of hearing your life, and I know that so many other people will. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing.
Thank you for having me.